creative opportunity and success.
Like, I can look at a brand or a company, I can decipher their advertisements. That's a gift that FIDM gave to me. I use a design ethos for products, for people, to everyday life. It's like, okay, I'm a fashion designer. I'm a designer of life.
FIDM gives us the tools to step into the industry and be well-rounded, and we have that passion, but now we have all the tools to take it to the next level. I love how unique I feel, but also in a community and how we can come.
Oh, sorry, we lost it. All right, no worries.
Now that I'm here, I feel like I belong here.
It's just really inspiring and very unique. I don't really feel like there's another place like it.
There we go, a little choppy, but we got through it. It's my fault for trying to move around my screen here. All right, tools to land a job. What are those tools? Now, how about everyone just give me a thumbs up if you have a job or you have had in the past a job. I see some thumbs ups. All right, good. Well, if you don't have a job, have never had a job, I firmly believe that it's sometime in the future you're going to be looking for a job. And so hopefully these will come in handy. These are going to be some of those important things necessary for the job search. And so to begin with, I'd like to take a comical view of a little interview process. So let's take a listen.
So I have your resume.
Home run, right? Jose Canseco.
Princeton, that's impressive.
I know, I went there.
So what is OmniCore?
OmniCore, happy you brought that up. It's a company I work for just a tiny bit, just a small amount of time. You can gloss over it.
It says you were there 10 years.
10 great years, and they were amazing.
Isn't OmniCore the name of the company from that movie RoboCop?
Have you seen RoboCop?
Yeah.
I don't know, I never thought about that.
That I would see it, or that?
No, that we never made that connection.
Oh, 3 years at Skynet?
Yes, that is something I don't mind talking about. I had a great time, great boss.
From the Terminator.
I watch a lot of movies.
What did you do there?
We all, we made slap bracelets.
In 2003?
Yes, in 2003 we made slap bracelets.
So, according to all of these dates, then you started your professional career when you were 13.
Is that mathematically what it is? Yeah, right after my bar mitzvah then. We just jumped in.
This resume is fake.
It's not a fake resume. I'm happy you brought that up because I wanted to express that it's not.
This interview is over.
So clearly, what did he do wrong? Anybody?
So I don't think that he even prepared his own resume. He probably has somebody else do it and didn't even bother looking over, and there was no truth or validity to it.
Exactly. He did not tell the truth, and he thought nobody's going to know. So let me begin by saying, be honest on your resume. The truth will find you out. So always be forthright and just put as much about yourself that is valid onto your resume. It is your get to know you card, right? When you are trying to look for a job and apply for different positions. I think there are there are tons of different formats that you can use as a resume template. Very easy to find online. If you have, I have a PC with Word on it. It comes with templates and you can fill in your information. I personally do like these ones on the left with the columns to one side and then the information in the bulk on the right. I usually would say that if you're going to use this template, use the left-hand column to list specific qualities that you possess and use the right side to list the job positions that you've held. Okay, but we're going to get kind of basic here. We're going to go with a very basic looking resume. And I think it's really important that you know that whether it's formatted fancy or whether it's a very basic one is not really the important thing. The important thing is that an employer can scan that resume in about 5 to 10 seconds and say, okay, this is someone I want to bring in as a qualified potential employee. These resumes you see before you are a little busy, a little overwhelming, not something that an employer can scan quickly and get some information from. So that really is something that you want to think about. Can an employer look at this and understand who I am effectively and determine whether I'm qualified? All right, so first impression, super important. The first impression of that resume, very important. Being able to highlight your qualifications so that your employer can quickly look through them. So we generally will use a very basic template when we're talking about writing out a resume. So you can use this, you can jot this down on a piece of paper as we go through these different topics. But certainly, if you have questions, just let me know about that. Most important is your name and your information. This should be there at the top of that resume, whether it's centered, whether it's off to the left, and your name should be the larger print. And then your address, your phone number, your email, if you have any social media platform, those things then should be listed very professionally. And you definitely want to spell check. Again, I have hired many people in my past. Through my lifetime in my career, I've been in the position to hire people. And I will tell you that this may not sound very nice, but if I see misspellings on a resume, it goes to the bottom of the pile. So you really want to check for the spelling and grammar, have someone else check it for you, take a look at it, new eyes, or sometimes catch things that you might miss. So super important for that. And then I also want you to think about your email address. This is quite frequently we communicate through email. And so you want your email to be professional. Lazy Lima Bean at AOL gives a picture of someone who is not going to be a very good worker. Or Crazy Cat Lady. What does that make you think of? It makes you think of a crazy cat lady. All right. So that email, first initial, last name, last name, very simple. It can be remembered. It's professional, straight to the point. Very often, people will put an objective on a resume. If you are applying in an entry-level position, I personally would say that that's not necessary. But as you move up your experience ladder and you are going for more specific job titles, sometimes that objective can be helpful. And it really is giving the employer sort of, what is my quick goal? Jamie's goal is to secure a sales associate position at the Trend Shop with the Trend Shop. She's very specific about it. Some of the examples we have, we're looking for an opportunity where I can apply my skills in a dynamic organization with room for advancement. I don't like to dwell too long on an objective because I want to say a year or two ago, I had a gentleman who was in a hiring position make the statement that the objectives are very objective. Basically, you can say that you are, really skillful and try to get this picture across really quickly, but until they know you, they're not going to necessarily believe it. So it made me rethink the objective. Only in maybe extreme situations. But I put it in here, it's possible. It's part of it. So for Jamie, she is putting an objective here, securing a sales associate position, and she's now going to list the summary of qualifications. This is the important bulk of your resume, other than, of course, your job titles. But some of you may have never had a job. Some of you may have only had one job or a short-term job. So the summary of qualifications can really be crucial in telling an employer what you're good at. And some of these things are what we would call inherent skills, skills that you're born with, or you learn them along life's pathway. Things like being dependable, being a team player, a good communicator. But some of these are learned skills. These are things like computer skills, bilingual, math, trying to think, graphic design, some things that are very specific to something that you've learned. So just for a minute here, I want you to, on your paper there, at your desk, wherever you are, I want you to write down 5 skills, whether they're inherent, things you're just born with, or whether they're things that are valuable skills you've learned that could be important in a job. And jot those down. And if you don't mind, share 1 or 2 in the chat. I'd like to know some of the things that you're thinking that would go well on a resume. I'll give you just a minute and I'll check the chat and see if you're putting anything in there. How many of you speak more than one language? Thumbs up.
I'm practicing Spanish.
Good. Very, very good for this part of the United States we live in. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone else? How about computer programs? How many of you are proficient in different computer programs, even if it's things like Excel, PowerPoint? You'd be surprised how many employers are looking for that. And that's the thing. You may have a great skill in graphic design and it may have nothing to do with the job you're applying for, but the employer may see that and think, oh my goodness, that could be really helpful around here. So listing all of those learned skills be very, very important to an employer. All right, so how many of you wrote down a few things? Were you able to? I'm looking for hands raised or. You know, I'm gonna speak something that I find happens very often. Very often, I feel like we don't know how to brag about ourselves. We don't know some of the things that we're good at and how important they might be. So if you need a little help, just raise your hand, let me know, and we'll spend a little bit more time on it. But I do want to make sure you get down 3 to 5 skills. All right, moving on then. Education. Now, Jamie happens to be in high school. You're in college. It's a great thing to put down the college that you're attending. If you have a strong GPA, absolutely, you can include that. I encourage people to, if they have a strong GPA. The thing is, I don't want anyone to be put off by maybe a GPA that they don't feel that is very strong, because a good GPA does not ensure a good employee. And a low GPA doesn't mean someone's going to be a bad employee. But if you have it, you might as well brag about it, okay? Sometimes you can put in some special programs or courses that you're in that might pertain to the job. Jamie's applying at a trend shop, so she wants the employer to know that she's part of the ROP retail program. So those kind of things can be put there in education. I will tell you that Being in college, you no longer need to put anything about the high school education on there. Just put the college education. And that can stay there for the life of your resume, all right? Putting in special clubs, especially educational clubs, those can be really effective on a resume. But when we come to that work experience section, and maybe you're someone who doesn't have a job, who hasn't had a job, it's important to not, don't put no work experience. It's better to leave that section off totally than to make it very clear you've had no work experience. But I would also suggest another option. If you've had either very little or no work experience, this is where maybe you want to put in things that you volunteered for that could be considered establishing and building work skills. You walk dogs, you babysit, you're part of the community garden. Put those things in there as a way to show that you've had responsibilities that could be important in the job. Jamie, in particular, has been a sales associate at another boutique, and she's done childcare. So when you're listing either these volunteer or these work experiences, you're going to want to put the name of the company that you either volunteered for or worked for. You're going to put the time frame that you were there, and then bullet point the job duties that you had. Remember, you want someone to be able to scan this resume in a very short period of time and get a feel for who you are. So bullet pointing comes in very handy. Be specific about those job duties and be positive about them. You didn't just order products for the store, you maintained the inventory. All right. You didn't just send bills and pay for deliveries, you manage the accounts receivable and payable. That's the professional way to say and explain those job duties. I've never used a resume service, but I know that people have been very successful when doing that. But, I also think that we have the ability to create a very professional resume if we spend just a little bit of time on it. So really think about what those job duties are or were and put them in a professional way, statement. You don't just deal with customers, you establish a strong client base. For those of you who were in the previous workshop this morning, Starbucks, looking for people who contribute to the profitability of a company. So establishing a strong client base and contributing to the profitability can sound very powerful. It's a good idea to put some related experience. Again, this may not be work experience, but it's things that built skills that added to your employability. Jamie's a member of student council. She's attended some summer programs that have to do with fashion and clothing. She's the editor of her school newspaper. Those things let an employer know a little bit more about you. If you're in any of the clubs and organizations on campus, putting those into this section really can be important. And in addition, if you were with us in the last workshop, I said it's so important to build a conversation with that employer. So putting these types of specialty things on the resume could generate a conversation that will make you memorable, that will make you stand out above the other candidates. Certainly if you've done any fundraising, any sports, being part of a team, that is incredibly important, volunteering, all of these going into the related experiences and the hobbies. The hobbies are going to go right back to that conversation. It could be that if snowboarding is one of your passions, it's also something that employer loves to do. And you start a conversation and suddenly you have a connection. That can be really important in an interview. You don't put your references on here. You're going to make those available on a separate form when you're filling out your application. For one thing, you don't want their personal information on your resume. And for another, your references might change as time goes by. So A professional looking resume, very simple, very straight to the point, easy to scan. Let's move on to our next tool. But we have a little, I don't think that we're going to have time for me to play it. It's a little fun look at a resume, but we'll see. It's about to come up here. Be careful though when you're sending electronically. Make sure that you don't have any accidental attachments to anything, or that you've attached the appropriate things. So much of how we apply for jobs now is electronic, so just make sure that you're sending them the right documents. And like I said, I don't think that we're going to have time for this little video, so I'm going to go right past it. And let's move on to the next important tools. It is good to be creative with these tools, but remember, you don't want to be too bizarrely creative. And if I didn't mention it, all of these things, cover letter, resume, it's good to print them out on really good quality paper, because you may find yourself in a situation where you're handing out an actual resume to someone. Certainly when you go on an interview, you'll be handing them a hard copy of your resume and your cover letter. So be sure to print it on good quality white or beige paper. Now, very often companies will ask for a cover letter. This is a quick little letter explaining who you are. We're going to do that in a very professional format with your name and address at the top, the date, and the name and address of the person doing the hiring and where they're located. Having that very simple greeting. And then that first paragraph, you're basically doing a 3-paragraph cover letter. The first paragraph is going to let them know where you saw the job posted and that you're perhaps enclosing your resume. The second paragraph is going to be why you feel you're suited for the job. This is where you take those qualifications on the resume and you write a paragraph about it. This is why I'm applying. This is why I feel I would be a good candidate. And you're going to talk about the things that make you stand out. And then finally, that third paragraph will be to praise the company, talk about the company, talk about why you'd like to work for this particular company. And then thank them for reviewing your resume. All right, so I always end with, I look forward to hearing from you at your earliest convenience. And so writing those 3 very simple paragraphs can make an effective cover letter. Signing it and letting them know you're enclosing your resume. Any questions so far? All right. Well, be sure and unmute if you have a question. Now, you've sent in a resume, you've sent in your cover letter, and oh my goodness, you get the phone call. They'd love to interview you. Let me first of all remind you to make sure that your voicemail is very professional. When you're going on the job search and you're expecting employers to phone you, make sure that your message and your voicemail is professional, all right? But you've answered the phone, you've got an interview, and now you're coming in to the office. A couple of things that I would highly encourage you to do: always bring a notepad, always bring your own pen. And I would bring a couple of pens just in case one of them isn't going to write for you. I have someone that I work for, and when she interviews, she only hands out red pens. If someone didn't bring a pen and they ask for a pen, she gives them a red pen. And that way she knows that they were not prepared when they came to the interview. So keep that in mind. But you will be asked to fill out an application. It's a legal document. You'll need to sign it and date it. It goes into the file for that company with everyone who came in for an interview. Filling out the application needs to be neat and carefully done as well. You will be filling out which position you're applying for. You will be asked what the salary expectation is. And I would actually encourage you to put that you're open or it's negotiable, because if you put a number in there, it may be too high for them, or you may be underselling yourself. So you want to make sure to let them know that you're willing to talk about it. You're going to be asked to list your employment history. This is taking the information straight from your resume and putting it here on the application. You do not want to put "see resume." Okay, this is again an official document, so you need to fill it in as completely as possible. Check yourself on spelling and fill in all the blanks. The reason for leaving, try to keep that very positive. It's going to happen that you're going to work for a company or a boss or in a situation that maybe wasn't the best. If you're ready to leave that position, try to be as positive as you can, because they only know your side of the story, and it will leave them curious if it's a negative approach to why you're leaving. So think about phrasing it in a positive way, all right? I got nowhere as part of a 60-person herd could simply mean there was no opportunity for advancement. So try to put it in a way that's very positive. I'm gonna move forward to the references. Now, this is where the part of the application that is absolutely going to be on there, and that's asking for references. It's a good idea to have your references on a little card, on your notepad, with your information, so that you can very quickly fill that into the application. Not a good idea to sit there in the lobby on the phone going, "Oh, hey, yeah, what's your, how do you spell your last name?" Or, "What's so-and-so's phone number?" Have that already with you. And whoever you're going to use as a reference, you want to make sure you let them know, "I'm putting you down as a reference. You may get a phone call." All right. References should be people that you've either worked for, volunteered for, that know you in a more professional or educational manner. Generally speaking, we're not going to put family members unless they actually were someone you worked for. All right. So your mom, your aunt, your grandma, those are really not valid references. Okay. Now, our last tool in the tool shed is the thank you letter. And I know that we had a question about this in the last workshop. I am going to just very quickly, Christina, can you just let me know my time frame? I don't have a clock in front of me. I just want to make sure I'm not.
It's at 1:16 right now. So
okay,
if you want to go a couple minutes, that's fine. Perfect.
Okay, so our thank you letter can be written as handwritten snail mail. Mr. Jones, thank you so much for your time in the interview today. I'm very interested in the position available, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Very simple. If you want to, you can also send that in an email. We're going to go back to that professional format with your name, the date, their name and information, and going back to thank them for their time, being excited about the position they have available, and perhaps letting them know, "Oh, I forgot to tell you this in the interview and wanted to let you know this particular thing." But overall, thanking them and that you look forward to hearing back from them soon. Sign your name and send it off. Like I said, email or snail mail. But there are your 4 tools, and I will stop sharing at this point and thank you for listening to the tools that we're going to use, and I will see if you have any questions for me.